Lawyers. Which legal mess shatters families so hard they never gather for holidays again? Story 1. AIO stopped a drunk girl from being pulled into a car by two random men, but my boyfriend is upset and called what I did stupid and dangerous. Story 1. Okay, so this happened last week, and I'm realizing how much it's still bothering me. Looking for an unbiased sanity check because I think it's honestly changed the way I view my BF a little, and I'm sorta spiraling. I'm 24F, he's 30M. I work in an office in the middle of a city, and it's common that a ton of people will hit up bars after work. I was working late last week and hadn't had time to eat all day. It was dark and I was eating in my car before heading home when I saw two men walk a clearly drunk woman into the parking garage. Each guy was holding onto one of her arms to keep her upright. She looked like she could barely walk. I was immediately on edge because 1, the guys looked completely sober, and 2, she looked like she was trying to pull away from them. The whole time I kept hearing them saying things like, "You're fine, you know us, we're taking you home, don't worry. We're helping you." Her words were really slurred, but she kept repeating variations of, "No, I want to go back," and "Where are we going?" At one point her phone started ringing, but one of them grabbed it and put it in his pocket. The other one took out his keys and beeped a car a couple down from me, and honestly, in that moment I just panicked. I got out kinda suddenly, which I think startled them because they both stopped walking immediately and just stared at me. I looked right at her and said in an angry tone, random name, "I've been looking for you all night, where the hell are you going?" I feel like I was operating on pure adrenaline at that point. Before she had a chance to answer, I turned to them and said, "And who are you guys?" I tried to sound annoyed and not accusatory. One of them immediately dropped her arm and put his palms up and was like, "Oh, are you her friend? We were just trying to help her find you. She's wasted, but she said you guys parked here," or some BS like that. I just walked up to them and said, "Thanks, I got her," and took her arm. She kept repeating, "No, I want to go back," and things like that, but I just kept pretending to be angry with her for disappearing, and said I'd been calling her too. They stood there for a second, but then started walking away. Before they could leave, I asked them to give me her phone back. Looking back, I know this was reckless. The one who took it was like, "We don't have it." At that point, I was just so furious realizing what they had just tried to do. In my mind, I was like, hell no, am I letting them steal her phone too? So I was like, "I literally saw you put it in your pocket." They both stared at me, and then the guy who took it said, "Oh yeah, I forgot," pulled it out, and tossed it at me. It dropped on the floor, and they kinda laughed and left. I was so shook up after. I put her in my car and called the police. I had to wait like 45 min for them to show up. By that point, she was already fading fast. She seemed more than just regular drunk to me. Thankfully, while we were waiting for the police, her sister, who had been looking for her, called again, and I was able to direct her to where we were. Needless to say, those men didn't know her. I left after the cops arrived, and I gave a statement. On the way home, I called my BF, and we talked for like 10 minutes before he had to hop off. He was out of the country on a work trip at the time. He was so aggravated when I explained what happened. I could tell he was angry with me for stepping in, which absolutely shocked me. During his meeting, he texted me the above. I can understand his worry, and I know this all stems from him wanting me to be safe. But literally everything about this has rubbed me the wrong way. I can't believe that in a similar situation, he would have just let them take her away like that. I can't believe he blamed her for any part of it either. He kept saying what I did was stupid and dangerous and wanted me to promise I wouldn't do something like that again. Where I may be overreacting, last year one of my best friends was seriously harmed after a house party under similar circumstances. She was drugged. Even before that happened, I would have stepped in for that girl. But that situation definitely amplified my response. I feel like at some point during our texts, my BF was blaming the girl for being drunk. It immediately made me angry because, in a way, it felt like he was also blaming my friend for what happened to her. So maybe it's hard for me to be unbiased, and I'm just too sensitive to this issue as well. We've talked about it again since he's been back, and he still believes I should have stayed out of it, though he's apologized for what he said. It's been bothering me more and more as the days go by, to the point where I've contemplated ending things. AIO? I feel like I can't think straight. Comment 1. I totally understand why your boyfriend reacted that way, because he was afraid for you, but I totally understand why you did what you did. You saved her. You stepped in because no one else would, and even your boyfriend admits he'd never do that. I understand he's terrified for you, and I understand he would be. His victim blaming was definitely out of line though, but he was also just upset in the moment thinking about your safety. But honestly, he doesn't get it. Girls gotta protect each other because guys like him won't step in. It's so dangerous for us because of stuff like this, but also, if we don't help each other, no one else will. Did you do a dangerous thing? Sure. Did you also save a girl's life? Absolutely. You were 100% right too. The cops wouldn't have done much if they'd even shown up on time. Which they wouldn't, because of course not. I do wish your boyfriend could be nicer to you because you were obviously running on adrenaline and pretty shaken up by the situation. I hope he treats you better. But yeah, him blaming her for potentially getting hurt or taken advantage of is wild, because people spike drinks all the time. I'm not sure if this is something you should end it over though. He was genuinely concerned for you, but you did what was best for her in that situation, which was taking a risk. But also, acting emotionally and blaming her for her situation is both wrong of him. You weren't acting emotionally, you were acting rationally because you knew that girl was in danger. You had mace at least, so you weren't going in defenseless. She was literally defenseless. You did the right thing. Don't forget that. Narrator. Thank you so much. I think I needed to hear a lot of this. I want him to be the type of person who would step in if he saw something like this happening, even though I understand it can be dangerous. It wasn't like I wasn't scared in the moment, but I also just couldn't sit there and watch it happen, you know? The blaming really floored me too, though he's literally never made a comment like that before, ever. I think I should talk to him again about all of this. Comment 2. I just read the entire text exchange, and page 1 of texts isn't something maybe OP should end it over, maybe page 2. But seriously, the amount of boundaries crossed by the boyfriend, the clear requests for space by OP clearly ignored, and having him attempt to gaslight OP into saying her not being up for conversation after feeling so drained, was her punishing him. He took this emotional moment OP had and made it all about himself. He was afraid something he sees as his was put in danger. Forget everyone else, and Hay wouldn't let it go until she admits that. I bet 100% when they FT later, he did indeed bring it up, just like he said he wouldn't do, because it was never about her needs, it was about him needing her to agree to his point of view. That's why all his positions were framed as rational or logical or common sense. Meanwhile, OP was stupid and careless. Comment 3. Yeah, OP, I would feel the same way as you, if not even more angry. I would not see my partner the same way after hearing them say that they wouldn't have tried to help a drunk woman who was clearly about to be taken against her will. I understand why he got so upset and concerned, but him talking down to you and perpetuating misogyny, unintentional or not, would make me lose respect for him as a person. I would hope that my loved ones would also try to do the right thing when possible. I know other people don't have the same prerogatives, but, he very clearly does not share the same values or convictions as you. As someone who has gone through a similar experience, it is really freaking disheartening how so many people are willing to let the most vile and horrible things slide for their own sake. You saved that woman's life, OP, and while others' concern is justifiable, you shouldn't be made to feel ashamed for it. It's sad, but a lot of the pushback I received after I helped report a guy who was known for harassing girls on campus came from those very victims' friends, student org leaders. Turns out that everyone knew, and there was more than enough evidence to get the guy in trouble. The orgs just didn't want to report it because they thought it would make them look bad and they didn't want to deal with the paperwork. I haven't been able to look at people the same way ever since. Comment 4. Yeah, plus, I'd take a beating if I knew it would save someone from being hurt like that. For him to say he wouldn't step in is just spineless emo. Call 911, approach them, and let them hear 911 on the line, and tell them to GTFO of there. If I had to take a beating in the moment, which I don't think a couple of losers like that would attempt with 911 on the line, then so be it. I'd take the beating. WTF is wrong with people? Step up, step in, be a freaking ally already. Comment 5. I'm a guy, and I was cringing from page 3 on at his texts. He is very controlling. He doesn't listen to you, and projects that onto you by telling you you're not listening. Your responses are measured, but he blows right past them. You're asking for emotional support, but he makes it about his feelings. He tells you what to do instead of asking you for something. He is not being curious to understand what you were thinking. He has the gall to say you weren't thinking rationally. Even if that were true, he's reacting emotionally in this chat, which is just a conversation with his partner, not even the high-stakes situation you were in. He realizes he messed up when he asks you if you're mad, the first time he shows concern for your feelings, instead of whether you behave appropriately when he is not around to directly control you. And then he doubles down by repeatedly ignoring your request for space, which is valid, until you finally cave to keep the peace. He clearly does not understand what women deal with constantly, or has ever stopped to ponder why 20% of women have reported being taken advantage of, or how much closer the number is to 100% in reality. Maybe this is a one-time thing, but I'd look for each of these red flags and think about where else they might have showed up in your relationship, because there's a clear line of thinking underneath that says he sees you as not rational, making decisions that are different from what he wants, and are thus bad, and sees women as inferior, not just you, but also the woman who got herself in trouble. Your responses were level and accurate. You did the right thing, and you're incredibly brave for doing so, and you deserve a partner who recognizes that, would do the same as you, and would want others to do the same if you were ever in a similar situation. Comment 6. Here's what's sending me about this back and forth. Boyfriend, I don't think you understand how dangerous this situation was. I'm worried this girl could have been seriously hurt or worse. Boyfriend, you clearly don't get what the consequences could have been. I stepped in to stop her from being seriously hurt or worse. Boyfriend, well, you should have just called the cops. But it would have been too late because time was of the essence because she was in extreme danger of being seriously hurt. Boyfriend, why don't you understand the danger and urgency of the situation, Hake? Bro. Women have to be hyper-aware of the danger we're in from men. All the freaking time. You've probably been in situations where the hair has stood up on your neck and you've switched seats or altered your path home where he never would have noticed anything was off at all. Just because he doesn't usually have to think through consequences doesn't mean you don't. He's trying to have it both ways, both acting like the situation this other woman was in was low stakes enough that a simple call to the police and making sure they follow up, WTF does that even mean, is sufficient while constantly telling you that you didn't understand the level of danger the situation held, even after you told him, multiple times, that you understood the level of danger and took a calculated risk. You did the exact right thing. They thought they could get away with it because there were no witnesses and she was vulnerable and alone. You didn't escalate, you de-escalated by making an incredibly smart choice in a high-pressure situation to just be there as her friend. And I started to put friend in quotes, but no. You were a friend to her in that moment. You may not have known her, but you did what every single one of her family, her friends, her loved ones would pray someone would have done if things had gone badly, which they absolutely would have if it weren't for you. And here's what really gets me. His reaction to your reaction to his reaction. I'm sorry I can't support you the way you need. No, he could. He was just choosing not to. And he was upset that you were upset, not because he was concerned about how you were feeling, but because he didn't think it was fair for you to be mad at him. That was made abundantly clear by you asking for space to process, and him missing you, and wanting to see your face, more important than you decompressing from a traumatic situation that he made worse by berating you. This conversation shows me he cares about your physical safety, but nothing in it shows any care for your emotional state or mental health. That condescending comment about the gym, bringing up your friend's experience? Shady all around. The least he could have done was given you space, but nope, he hounded you and guilted you until you gave in on that, too. No compromise or compassion whatsoever. Thank you for doing what you did, Hite. Not everyone would have, as your boyfriend abundantly proved, but someone needed to. Comment 7. I have to be honest, I don't really like how your boyfriend handled this at all. Many of his comments are very demanding, as if he has authority over you. Immediately he's demanding you do not do something again, and throughout the entire conversation he continues to do so. His main goal isn't even to calm you down or help you, it's to scold you over and over again. Additionally, he continued to not care about your feelings or what you wanted, or to give you space. You told him multiple times you wanted to talk tomorrow, and yet he kept pushing over and over again, and continued to make it all about him. You told him you were shaken up, drained, emotional, etc., and all he cared about was his feelings and whether or not you FaceTimed him. When you explained it clearly, he still pushed that narrative, saying stuff like, "I feel like you're punishing me." This isn't even to mention how he absolutely played the victim blame card. I'm not going to be like a lot of Reddit and immediately suggest you break up with him, but I think he was way out of line, and his apologies aren't good enough. In the moment, it's natural for him to be scared, and to have a low moment where he says or does something he isn't proud of, but he continued to push and push. This isn't even to mention the fact that, quite frankly, he's just wrong. You were correct in helping that woman, full stop. Yeah, it could have gone south, but it's also telling that he suggested you call him instead, as if he would be able to deal with two guys better than you in that scenario. He didn't give you credit for doing it well. He didn't praise you for being a strong moral being. He scolded you and demanded you never do it again, over and over again, and then at the end, still didn't hear you when you just needed some space. I would think hard and long about if these sorts of things are patterns, or if this is just a moment of weakness from him that he can make up for. Comment 8. I did something similar a few years ago. A young woman was walking along the street outside our house and crying. A car full of young men was following her slowly and badgering her. They kept hopping out of the car and trying to pull her into it, and she'd yell and pull away, and they'd get back in the car. When I saw this happening, I ran outside, ran over the road, asked her to come with me, and took her up to my house with the young men yelling threats at me. I told them if they stepped onto my property, I'd call the cops. I sat down with her in the backyard and asked her what was going on. Then we called her parents, and they came to pick her up. She was trying to break up with her abusive boyfriend who'd hurt her. She had run out of his place and was trying to get away from him. He'd gotten a bunch of friends and was trying to grab her. It's only lucky his friends were not quite so eager to force her into the car, and he was driving. I was alone in the house. The street was kind of rural, and there was no other cars or people around. Objectively, what I did was dangerous and reckless. I could have just called the cops. But if I had and they were too late and that young woman was taken into that car, it's highly likely it would have ended in her serious harm or worse. Did I put myself at risk? Yes. I was on high alert for a couple of weeks after, just in case he and his friends decided to retaliate. Was it worth it? Abso-freaking-lutely. I've done it before then, and I'll do it any time I see I can step in. My husband was both terrified and extremely proud of me when I told him about it. He agreed that even though I'd been at risk, it was the right thing to do. We talked about how to be safer in future if anything like it happened, having mace by the door so I could have some kind of protection, etc. And even though he was scared about what could happen to me, he didn't tell me to never do it again or anything like that. He was proud I'd helped someone. He knows that's who I am. I'll step in. It's one of the reasons he loves me. And he collaborates with me on how to do that smarter and safer. The fact that he's like that too is one of the reasons I love him as well. If he told me he would do nothing beyond calling the cops in a situation where he could step in like that, obviously not to go pick fights with people, etc., but to actually intervene as safely as possible, and that he would actively just stand there while someone was likely taken against their will the way your BF said he would, I'd lose attraction. I am not sure I'd be able to stay with someone knowing that they would behave like that. So, NTA, I think having similar values about things like this is important. I don't know if you should break up with him, but I do think you should listen to your instincts on this. Comment 9. I would have agreed that he was just panicking for your safety in the moment, as any partner would be, until I got to the end of the texts where he's accusing you of punishing him and not being patient with the fact that you'd rather not talk right now. I think that the victim blaming is a massive red flag that indicates that he would not be the kind of guy to step into these situations to save someone. He doesn't seem to have very much empathy, but rather doesn't want you to believe that she was worth helping in regard to your own safety, which is a classic case of bystander syndrome. While it's true for anyone that we don't want our loved ones in harm's way, even if it means helping someone else, this is a very specific situation that happens time after time because no one steps in, especially men, and women need to be vigilant. In regards to him claiming you're punishing him, I fear he's not mature enough to understand that when you hurt someone's feelings, you're not allowed to decide you didn't. The consequences of your actions are not an unjust punishment. They are the direct result of how you've made someone feel. If he has the mentality that every time you ask for space, it means that he's being punished, the odds that he'll ever learn what a big mistake this is, or any other mistake, are slim. I think you may be in for some resentment down the line. I don't think this is the last time he'll make borderline misogynistic comments such as these. Not only seeing you as a helpless person in need of your own saving, but not seeing what a good person you are and your awareness of your surroundings. Coupled with the fact that he believes the victim put herself there, I'd be less than shocked to discover that this isn't an isolated incident of his behavior, but also that it will rear its ugly head again later. Also, I'm not entirely sure I'd want to date someone who wouldn't have stepped in. Comment 10. You were so brave, and your adrenaline-fueled instincts were completely on point. You even saved her phone, and you got her both police and her sister. That's so impressive, and I applaud you so strongly for this. Now for your question. Okay, so he makes a different risk assessment than you do. That's just about the only thing that I agree with him about. For the rest, I see victim blaming, which you thankfully called out immediately. He's convinced he knows better than you what the risks for a woman in the world are. Yikes. He keeps repeating that his opinion is pure logic, when really, it's so obvious it's fear. The fear is even legitimate, I feel, but to me this belief in the supremacy of logic over feelings is such an aggravating sign of emotional and intellectual immaturity, to say nothing of it being a warning sign that he might be capable of reasoning himself out of empathy. Did he really call you stupid? I'm not going into the debate fallacies like hitting you with the stress of your friend's experience. I'll just point to what I read as the infuriating condescension of, "You went to the gym twice and think you can fight now, girl." Not him insisting you FaceTime him because his feelings were sad over your exhaustion and upset. Add in that he's 30 and you're under 25, and I'm frustrated on your behalf. Look, I'm Arrow, A's and neurotic, so I've always preferred my own company over a partner. But this guy? ETA. A massive internet hug from a stranger, if you want it. Comment 11. He's very quick to anger, isn't he? I would have stopped replying after he said, "You can drop the sarcasm." Forget that. I'm not a child and you have no right to scold or tone police me, especially not right after I've been through something traumatic, jerk. And you think I'd be able to live with myself knowing you were attacked, is another red flag. I don't see that as him actually being concerned for you. I see him being concerned with how he would or wouldn't cope if something happened to you. Which I understand some people see as sweet, like, oh, he loves you so much he couldn't bear to live without you, but personally, I don't. I see it as him only being concerned with himself, his feelings, and the consequences he would face if anything happened, and I see that happening throughout this whole exchange. It's grim. To be brutally honest, I think you're going to stay with him, especially because I think Reddit is going to coddle him and excuse all the red flags on display here. ETA, okay. Turns out the response to this post is pleasantly surprising me. I'll take the L on this prediction. It's good to be wrong sometimes. But I also think that when you'll eventually do break up, you're going to look back on this moment and realize that the way he reacted here told you a hell of a lot about who he was as a person, things that you probably already subconsciously picked up on before, but didn't want to consciously confront. And I think it's going to hit you that you made several excuses for him and his behavior throughout the relationship that you really shouldn't have. Sorry, sis, just the way I see it. Because this attitude doesn't come out of nowhere. Comment 12. I've got to be honest. I don't love how it seems like he's talking at you, rather than talking to you. I understand he's thinking of you and what could have happened to you. And that's valid and wonderful that he cares. But he's not acknowledging or seeming to understand that you cared about those same things for a random stranger. And, okay, not everyone is built to be so outwardly thinking. My main issues with his responses. He blames her for getting so intoxicated, indicates it's her fault for being in such a state. I don't fully believe that it was just his worry talking, because he reiterated that you would never get to that level to be in such a position. He wants you to promise that you won't do something like that again. Sir, I regret to inform you, but that isn't a promise I can make. As long as there are people willing to take advantage of someone in a vulnerable position, my conscience will not let me ignore it. He just generally doesn't seem to listen. You tell him you're bothered and need some space. Okay, but why? Can you tell me why you're upset? What specifically are you bothered by? I feel like I'm being punished. Can you please just FT me even though you've already said you're not up to it right now? I just want to talk even though you've already asked for space. Like, let me breathe, damn. Like I said, I understand where he's coming from, but I'd really love it if he would try to see your side of it too. And thank you for stepping up in the moment. Update. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who responded. I'm still trying to read through comments, but it's just been a little overwhelming. I'm grateful to hear all sides. He's coming over tomorrow, so we can talk again, and I'm going to make how I feel about what happened very clear. Squashing down my feelings has clearly not helped anything, and I really want him to understand where I'm coming from. I promise I do get where he is coming from as well, and I know that he cares about me and my safety, but his initial instinct to blame her is still really gnawing at me. I'm not trying to make this into a moral judgment, but it just keeps eating at me that he would have left her there like that. I've saved a bunch of comments that have really helped clarify my thoughts or given me a different perspective, so thank you all again. Comment 1. OP, I'm sharing this both as someone who has been in your position and as someone who is currently a relationship therapist. I grew up surrounded by people who loved me, who cared about me, but who failed to protect me in the moments that it mattered most. I grew accustomed to the idea that love doesn't necessarily mean safety. It was one of the most destructive and dangerous beliefs I held, and it fed into multiple subsequent experiences of deep interpersonal trauma. Knowing what I know now, and healing in the ways I have over the past decade or more, I desperately hope that you have someone in your life to tell you your initial shock, indignation, and disappointment at your boyfriend's responses are indescribably valid. In this crucial moment, he demonstrated that he is not safe on multiple levels. First, he makes it known that he could not be trusted to humanize you unless you had some value to him personally. He proclaims doesn't admit, because he seems to feel no shame and sees no issue with his point of view, that he feels no sense of social contract or personal desire to actively protect the vulnerable if there's any even potential risk to himself. As someone who has been that vulnerable person before, a part of me would crumble to learn that I would be viewed as not worth it by my partner if the circumstances were different, especially since he's in a much greater position of privilege than I would be. Second, he refuses, or is unable, to regulate his own vicarious emotions about your experience to be able to show up for you. That in and of itself could be worked through, but he actively, continually, overrode your needs and emotions with the expectation that you would soothe his feelings first and comply with his demands. This indicates the strong possibility that when something terrible happens to you while you're together, he will need to be comforted about it first before he begins considering what you need. Third, he shifts blame. His first impulse when hearing that a woman was being taken by predators was to find an excuse for why you're better than her. It was a mental contortion to justify humanizing you, for now, while allowing himself to disregard the woman you so courageously saved. Instead of finding common humanity with the victim while also acknowledging his care and concern for you, he jumps right to why you would never put yourself in that position, as if women always choose to be vulnerable. Fourth, he repeatedly ignores and crosses the crystal-clear boundaries you attempt to very reasonably set. You were so calmly and respectfully communicative throughout this entire conversation despite your own distress, and he responds with minimization, denial, invalidation, guilt-tripping, and manipulative tactics. He specifically attacks your boundaries and uses guilt and accusations to put you on the defensive so you neglect your own needs in order to meet his. That is not a safe partner. I'm not saying that he's a bad person, but I am saying that he is not revealing a level of maturity, degree of compassion, or integrity of values that matches what you're putting forth in this situation and conversation. Those are not things that are easily, quickly, or often willingly changed. You know what someone who shared your values and genuinely had your best interest in mind would say? Something along the lines of, "Wow, babe, that sounds absolutely terrifying, and I can't help but feel worried for your well-being in situations like this. At the same time, I am so proud of you for doing what you knew was the right thing in the moment, and I hope you can let yourself appreciate that you all but certainly saved that young woman a lifetime of trauma at best. I love your heart and your drive to be a force for good, even if I end up wanting to have conversations later about better ways for you to step in for others while doing as much as possible to ensure your safety in the process. But what matters the most right now is that you're safe and that you know you did the right thing. Thank you for calling me and know that I'm here while you process this. All this to say, please listen to the part of yourself that's wired to pick up on safety and danger. We can talk ourselves into so much by second-guessing our own intuitive responses, especially if we grew up in dysfunctional families. If your alarm is going off, it's very likely for a reason. Wishing you all the best, and hoping more people in the world move like you do. Story 2. AIO for not wanting to give my dead father's fiancé my personal info? My father passed away in South Africa just over 2 weeks ago. I moved to Germany 13 years ago and rarely spoke to him. In the last 2 weeks, his fiancée has tried getting my personal identification number for multiple reasons, along with other personal details. I get that everything needs to be registered, but as his only child, everything, including debt, falls to my name, and I want to make sure that everything gets taken care of properly. I asked her multiple times to just send me everything that needs to be filled, but she kept insisting that I'm the only one who hasn't given her their details, and she's just trying to register his death. I really feel bad that she's not in a good financial situation, but she refuses to send me the forms that need to be filled and only sends me screenshots where you can't even see what website the forms are from. I've contacted a lawyer in my hometown in South Africa, but honestly, I don't even have any information to give the guy, other than my dad's ID number. He also hasn't gotten back to me yet. Am I really just being the ridiculous daughter who is standing in the way of legal formalities? Or am I justified for wanting a lawyer to look over everything? She's now resorted to guilt-tripping me. Comment 1. No, you aren't overreacting. The fact that she's trying to pressure you into sending over highly sensitive personal information that can be used for identity theft, opening loans, credit cards, etc., is especially concerning, given that she's not in a good financial situation. Please do not give your personal information to anyone, regardless of whatever pressure they are putting on you for various legal formalities. There is a way and means of doing things, and the way his fiancée is going about this is not proper. Narrator. From the very first message, I've had a bad feeling. My mother feels sorry for her, as do I, and can't imagine that she's trying to harm me, but she also understands that it's my personal information. We just both have no idea what to do. Comment 2. Anytime someone says they are asking, do not give anything without speaking to them yourself, so you can clarify what is going on. One time, my grandmother called saying she needed me to sign some medical paperwork for my mother when she was in a medically induced coma following an accident. She said it was just so she could get updates. I called the hospital to just clarify, and they said my grandmother was asking them to remove my mother from life support while intubated because it didn't align with my grandmother's beliefs. My mother recovered as expected, and would have been gone had I signed that paper. Narrator. I'm so sorry. That is really messed up. I kept asking her to send me the forms they need her to fill out, but never got them. Comment 3. I think your grandmother and my grandmother are related, or at least cut from the same cloth. My biological dad was in a motorcycle accident and lost a lot of blood. My grandmother tried to trick my mother into giving her control of my dad's medical care because she's a Jehovah's Witness and didn't want the hospital to give him blood. Luckily, my mum saw through it and my dad got the care he needed. He would have been in serious danger without it. Comment 4. I'm kinda surprised how aggressively the fiancée is pursuing OP's personal info given her dad just died. Wouldn't some space and understanding be in order here? Maybe OP could assertively explain to her how this feels super uncomfortable, emphasize cooperating while protecting herself legally because that's what her dad would likely want, and see if they can have a more respectful convo from there. Story 3. AIO seeking restraining order, PPO against ex's ex-fiancé? For context, my ex, male, now 21, and I, female, now 19, dated for 2 or 3 years on and off, but it was toxic as he was always cheating. We stayed decent friends afterward though and were pretty close and have always gone to each other in rough times because we both know each other really well, it usually stayed completely platonic. In December 2024, we had been in contact, and his, then, fiancée, added me on Snapchat to tell me they were engaged. Okay, cool I guess. We weren't doing anything bad, so I'm not sure where that came from. I ended up blocking him for a bit because of her. In May, we started talking again because they had split up, and he really wasn't doing okay, so I let him stay at my place. He stayed almost every night for 3 or 4 weeks, then I stayed at his family's for a couple weeks. I have my own apartment, he still lives with his family. It was mutually beneficial, as I had been really struggling as well with personal things, boy problems with a total jerk, grief, etc. We had been close this whole time. Another girl he had been with prior to and during his relationship with the ex-fiancée was around as well, and would often talk about stealing and burning things of the ex's that he still had, hairbrush, notes, a necklace. Also, not sure where this should be added in, but his ex was messing around with his cousin, being all flirty and all over him for quite some time, and while they were together, would leave while he was sleeping to go out riding with the guy. Tuesday night in the first week of June, he switched up. He didn't want to sleep in bed with me, at his own home, so his bed, and he wouldn't communicate why. Wednesday, he was telling me over text to get out of his house, and I really couldn't understand why the hell he had switched up like this. I stayed for the rest of the week as I'm close friends with his sister. I consider her a sister as well, I always have. I had been helping her with stuff for her graduation. Wednesday night, he noticed his ex's necklace was missing and accused me of stealing it, and she started texting me, accusing me as well. I eventually blocked her, and she later logged into his account and was messaging me. He started staying at the girl's apartment, the one he was with during his relationship. The one that had talked about stealing his ex's things and burning them. I've told his ex now countless times she needs to leave me alone before I take legal action, and she keeps viewing my social media on fake accounts and making new ones when I block them. I've given up blocking them because she keeps just making new ones. But yesterday her sister also viewed my profile, so I told her, the sister, that the family needs to leave me alone, and next time someone from the family views my profiles, I'm going to take legal action. The ex viewed it shortly after and has just viewed it again. I've been screenshotting my profile views to keep track of this. The only reason it's taken this long for me to seek legal action is because she told me to hurt myself on his Facebook Messenger, and I didn't want him to get dragged into it, as I still do care about him. It's been very distressing to the point my daily life is getting dragged down. I'm losing energy, getting stress acne, losing more hair than what is usual for me, and quite frankly, have considered doing something drastic because of this stressor. I already have horrible mental health, and this is making it worlds worse by the day. They all know, especially my ex. Comment 1. Just keep blocking and leave this man and everyone involved in the situation alone for good. You are being taken advantage of massively. Narrator. Except for telling her to leave me alone and some contact with him warning he might get dragged into it and for stuff about his home, because again I am good friends with his sister, she's like a sister to me. I haven't talked to them really. I did once go off on him for the stuff he pulled on me, but once I said my piece, I didn't talk again until something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm seeking legal action against her, so if you get dragged into it, I'm sorry. I don't want you to get dragged into it, and that's why it's taken me so long to do this, but with her telling me to hurt myself on your account, I wouldn't doubt you would be dragged into it. So I'm sorry if that happens, but I need to do this for my peace." And left it at that. Comment 2. I don't know where you're at, but I know that if you're trying to get a restraining order on someone, you have to be essentially afraid that they're going to do something to your life. All bets are off the table if it's not. But you can change your number. That saved me so much. Narrator. Michigan. Somewhere in my screenshots of my conversation with him, either he or she sent a message saying, "People know I'll hurt them, I don't care." And in all honesty, I wouldn't put it past either of them at this point to do physical harm at minimum. ETA. All of the messages are through Facebook Messenger, and I'm still on my mum's phone plan, so I'm not sure if I could change my number at the moment. I'm working on bringing more money in, so I can get my own plan though.